Welcome to Newsmakers for this Wednesday, December 11th, 2024. I'm Louie Butko, and thank you for joining us. On today's show, we are taking it to the streets, or more specifically, the highways, as the OPP well underway in their Festive Ride Campaign to keep alcohol and drug-impaired drivers off our roads. And to discuss that and some safety tips when traveling on the roadways this holiday season, I'm pleased to be joined by Media Relations Officer for the OPP's Highway Safety Division, Sergeant Kerry Schmidt. Sergeant, thank you for doing this. I would admit, I drive a lot on Ontario's highways. I live in St. Catharines. I drive to Hamilton. It's about a 70-kilometer route both ways. So, 140 kilometers or so on Ontario highways. I got to ask you, are we getting worse at driving, or am I just feeling that? Are we getting worse at driving?
Well, yeah, I don't know. We certainly get a lot of driving complaints when it comes to weather, congestion, traffic, crashes, construction, all sorts of things that affect your drive time. You put in your driving directions. It tells you how long it's going to take to get there. And no matter what you do, you're not able to shave off those minutes, because then if you are, you're driving in a manner that's completely inappropriate for the conditions around. Traffic slows down. We have to understand, driving's a privilege. We need to share the road safely, responsibly, and we are seeing issues all the time. And now, as we look forward to winter weather, we've already had a few tastes of it as this season is just getting started, and we've got some pretty rude awakenings. Mother Nature always seems to have the upper hand when it comes to weather, and as much as we are trying to do the best to get through our journeys, we have to understand our limitations, ourselves, our vehicles, and who we share the road with as well. The OPP, we investigate about 74,000 crashes already this year. That's a big number of collisions, fatalities. We're similar to where we were last year. 364 people have died in road collisions already this year. And I'll tell you, the number one killer out on our highways is speeding and aggressive driving. 91 people have been attributed to aggressive driving as the primary causal factor in the collision. Doesn't mean they were the ones that were speeding, but someone in that collision was, and that's something that we really want to send home as a message, that you have to drive alert, drive safe, drive sober, not be distracted, and obey the speed limits, and let's all get to where we're going. It might take us some time, but we'll all get there safely. To
the point of the amount of driving I do, you mentioned reckless driving and speeding, excessive speed, distracted driving. If I'm driving on the QEW, let's say at Fruitland between 50, if I'm on the QEW and I have somebody who is weaving in and out, dangerously driving 140 kilometers ahead of me, they're slamming on their brakes because maybe I didn't get out of the way quick enough to try and stem. Is there anything I can do as a driver to alert OPP of these people? Because sometimes you get that instant karma where you'll drive by and you'll see them pulled over for speeding. But to make the road safer, is there anything I can do as a driver when I witness these sorts of actions on the road?
On your cell phone, the only time you can use your phone when you're driving is if you're making an emergency call. Star OPP on your cell phone, which is star 677. Call that number. It'll put you right to our comm centers, dispatchers that will take the information that you have, tell us what you see, where you are, and what's going on, and we will get officers in position to try to intercept and observe and interrupt whatever behavior that you have that you're seeing. You can also call 911 in an emergency as well. But Star OPP is what you can call when you're on the QW or any provincial highway across the province, and put in that information and help us, keep our highway safe. And again, we don't want people trying to get in and do vigilante justice and trying to get back on someone. We get calls for road rage all the time. It is not worth the sweat off your neck to be trying to engage in someone who's driving aggressively or erratically. So they may be drunk, they may be impaired, they may be distracted, they may be falling asleep. All those behaviors sometimes look the same when they're weaving all over the roads, and you don't want that person to be in front of you, which is going to cause a crash and send you being stuck in traffic, which we see all too often. So, that's what we ask people to do, and we're out there doing what we can to stop bad driving behavior, but you're seeing it as well. And you don't have a police vehicle that people are maybe changing their behavior when they see an OPP cruiser up and down the highway, and as soon as we're out of sight, it's back to pedal down and they're off to the races. Well, we also have officers in the air. We have vehicles that are less noticeable as well, and we're out there doing those patrols. And we need everyone to help make sure that we all get home safe.
A great piece of advice, because again, you'll for the amount of driving I do at the times of driving I do, yes, some days you're moving 0 kilometers an hour because of construction or things out of your control, and there are people who take it amongst themselves to really get past you. So never feel like you're narking. And again, I'm sure I'm going to get crapped on for this, but as somebody who drives so much on the highway, it really does affect me, especially where we are. We are a pretty neighborhood community in which people are driving from Niagara to Toronto, Hamilton to Toronto. It's pretty interesting to know that, yes, you can report these people. You mentioned the winter weather we had. Highway 11 this time last week was closed in both directions. It was kind of a blast of winter. We've been fortunate. We had the Highway 6 last week, was a little bit of a mess, but we're getting to that time of year. What advice do you have for people as they get set to go on these maybe longer journeys, visiting friends and families across the province? What advice do you have people as they hit the roads this winter?
The holidays are coming, New Year's celebrations, and weather can happen without warning, so it seems. You can go from beautiful dry roads, blue skies, to a whiteout condition. And the forecasters right now are talking about snow streamers again coming across through the GTHA, and who knows how it could affect you. So again, always driving to those conditions, slowing down. You may start in plus conditions, dry roads. Maybe it turns to rain, and also it's freezing rain, and it's ice pellets and snow. And when you hit, and you don't realize how slippery it is until you hit the brakes to avoid a crash, and you realize your vehicle isn't stopping the way you expected it to. So always be aware of those conditions. Take a look at your temperature gauge in your car, and understand that when you hit those brakes, if it doesn't slow down, that's because you haven't adjusted your driving properly. Winter tires are always a good thing. Have an emergency kit in your vehicle. I can't tell you how many people I talked to, even the last 2 weeks, that got stranded on Highway 11. But we've had those same kinds of situations here in the GTA with people getting stranded on the 401, for example, the QEW, for hours and hours on end. You're running low on fuel. You don't have food or water. You don't even have boots or shoes. And you may think you're just going to the office. You're all dressed up, looking good for a day, a dinner out, and all of a sudden you're stuck in a snowdrift, and you got to walk out of that, and you don't have the footwear, you don't have a jacket, you don't have gloves. Get a shovel. Emergency kit, plan ahead, understand how your vehicle operates, and even a simple thing like having an extra jug of washer fluid, because when you're going through it, you're going to go through it fast, and all of a sudden you run out, and all of a sudden you can't see through your windshield at all, and that can be a very scary, frustrating thing as well. So, being prepared for checking the weather, checking the roads. 511ontario.ca. You can find updated weather and road conditions in a moment's glance. And don't trust your driving directions. It may not know how quickly conditions can change, roads can close, traffic crashes can happen. It tries to update it, but when we're dealing with a major winter weather event, it may not indicate that the proper detour is actually going to get you to your destination. So you plan ahead and give yourself lots of time, particularly when the weather is not cooperating.
You mentioned the emergency kit. What are some essentials? Obviously, things to stay warm, granola bars, water. What are some other essentials that you should have in an emergency kit in the winter?
You probably already have your charging cords in your car, but having that charging cord, having a booster pack, having a cell phone that you can actually make communications with, but realize you may not even be in cell phone service in some cases. A little candle can give you a little bit of warmth, take the edge off. A jacket, boots, shovel, gloves, for a blanket, and maybe more than just for yourself, but other passengers in your vehicle as well. Those are the basic essentials, a booster pack and just little things things that you might need to use, and check on them from time to time as well. A snow brush, an ice scraper. If you have a flat tire, do you even know how to change your tires? Do you know where your tire iron is, your jack, and how to get your spare tire out of the vehicle? Little things like that can be very frustrating and very stressful if you are finding out, in the middle of the night in a dark and stormy evening, someplace away from help, and now you're on your own. You need to figure out for yourself how you're going to get your vehicle moving again. And if you do find yourself stranded in a snowbank, make sure your exhaust is clear. We don't want to see carbon monoxide coming back into the cabin of the vehicle, and make yourself as visible as possible. Simple reminders when you are actually moving down the road. Full headlighting system on, and make sure people can see you from the front and behind. If you become disabled, broken down, put your forward flashing lights on to warn motorists that you're there. And again, call Star OPP or 911 for an emergency that you need assistance, and we will get officers or a tow truck or 511 dispatchers to come and give you a hand and get you on your way again.
To that point, we were talking about like best practices. So if you were driving the highway and you lose confidence in yourself, you don't think you're, maybe it's getting too snowy, it's getting too icy for you. Best practices, because I don't think it's pulling over to the side of the road on the highway. What advice do you have to people if they do find themselves, let's say on the QEW, and again, I'm going to use this because it's very specific to me, between 50 Road and Ontario Street, St. Catharines, and maybe there's 7 kilometers between exits, 5 kilometers between exits. Best practice, if you lose confidence in yourself driving, what should you do in bad conditions?
Well, we want you to get off the highway. We want you to be safe, making sure you're as visible as possible. If you can't get off the highway, we don't want you taking chances. Don't kind of nudge yourself onto the shoulder, because you're probably going to get stuck and plows are going to get through, and you might even get plowed right in. Stay moving. Often when people stop, and there's a lot of snow coming down, snow will build up and they will find themselves stuck. If you do find yourself stuck and you're not able to move, very often it's because your vehicle's traction control is trying to get the vehicle moving, but it's moving slowly. Turn off your traction control. Learn where that button is on your vehicle. By turning off your traction control, that'll get your tires spinning and hopefully get it down to a point where it can find some contact with the road surface. That'll give you a little bit of traction and get yourself moving again. Get in the tracks of another vehicle and get yourself off to the next exit. But again, sometimes you have to have a little bit of energy to keep that car moving, particularly when you're going over maybe a windrow, when plows have come through and there's a bit of a snow drift. If you go over it really slowly, very easily you can get hung up on that, and then you're stuck, and everyone else behind you is also stuck. So again, try not to get yourself in that position in the first place, but if you do find yourself, keep moving, keep going, follow along behind traffic, make sure you can still see them, and you don't need to put your forward flashing lights on. Keep your full headlighting system on, indicate your turns if you are making turns, and get off at the first opportunity. Get to a rest station, a gas station, service center, and wait for the system to clear. Wait for the plows to clear the roads, and find alternate ways of taking care of yourself until such time as you can get to your destination.
And something I feel like needs to be mentioned: do not get out of your car on the highway. Right? How important is that in that messaging? Even flat tires, you pull over to the left shoulder. Maybe you're out of your car. Like, just can you reiterate how dangerous it is without emergency services, without a tow truck, without a police officer present, to get out of your car on a highway?
Yeah, stay in your vehicle. Keep your engine running if that's possible. Keep your seatbelt on as well. The safety systems will still get engaged. And I can tell you, I've been to many crashes where someone who's been broken down has been hit by another vehicle, and the airbags have deployed because the ignition was on. If you turn your ignition off, you're trying to save fuel, your airbags will not deploy. Do not get out of your vehicle. Even if you think you had a slight fender bender, you want to exchange information with someone else, the moment you get out of your vehicle, you are now a pedestrian. You are vulnerable to injury, and if you lost control, you hit the wall. Who's to say the next car coming behind you won't do the same thing? And if you get hit as a pedestrian, you're going to get hurt. And stay inside the safety cage of your vehicle. That's the best place for you to be. If you are movable, drivable, keep moving. get down to the next exit, get off the highway completely to a safe place, safe location where there you can call your insurance company, you can exchange information with the other driver if there is one, and then make the necessary notifications and reports to do that. But you're right, do not get out of your vehicle. There's only very few situations where, we leave it up to you to determine whether or not, if you are in a vulnerable position, your vehicle is immobilized, it's dark, it's on a blind curve, and traffic is coming along, and you are fearful that you may be struck and seriously injured. Only under extreme circumstances, if you are physically able to exit and clear yourself from the danger area off the highway, up an embankment, across the fence into a field, that's the only time. But we would rather have you stay in the vehicle but call us, and we will make sure we get support services there as quickly as we can.
And I don't want to apologize to our listeners and viewers and yourself, because a lot of these seems like simple things, but when you see it on the highway, and you see it a lot, it's not so. It's not such basic knowledge, because it does seem like a lot of people forget these sorts of things. And to that point, things that people forget, not sure how you can still do this in 2024, knowing the statistics, but people still choose to drink and get behind the wheel. And that brings us to the OPP Festive Ride Campaign. And there's the safe amount of alcohol, the 0.08 whatever, is no alcohol, I'm assuming. The festive campaign underway. Tell us how it's going so far.
Well, sure. The legal limit, 0.08 for criminal impaired driving. Provincially, 0.05 is a provincial 3-day license suspension as well. But any amount of alcohol can affect anybody's ability to make decisions, to have proper reaction times. And so, again, if you drink, don't drive. And if you drive, don't drink. And if you're going to a party, plan ahead how you're going to get home. If you're going to go out and spend a bunch of money at a fancy dinner, a fancy party, fancy place, why not go all out and get the red carpet treatment and get picked up by a ride share, by a limo, by a designated driver, someone who's taking care of you, so then you do not need to stress and worry about approaching the ride checks, because you're not driving and you have a safe, sober driver that's taking you home the way they should be. But again, if you only make those plans once you're 4 hours into your party and you're countless drinks in, and you think, well, I've only had a few drinks and I still feel good, you don't feel good. You cannot objectively look at yourself after a night of drinking and say, oh yeah, I think I can still make it home safely, because we get people calling in suspected impaired drivers all the time, and when we stop these drivers, we tell them, someone called in that you were all over the highway, and they are completely blown away by that. And only once they see dash cam or some evidence do they realize, up and down on sidewalks, through stop signs, across all lanes, how absolutely dangerous they are. And they have no concept of that while they're driving, because they're impaired. Why do you drink? Why do you consume drugs? Yeah, marijuana may be legal to consume, but it's not legal to consume and then operate a vehicle while impaired. So, people consume those products, those beverages, for that side effect. But that side effect has a very potentially deadly consequence if you're operating machinery, particularly a motor vehicle.
You mentioned machinery, because I think this time of year, again, probably important to mention, you can be impaired driving on a snowmobile, just like you can on a boat. Can you talk a little bit about that? If you're heading up to the cottage, you're lucky enough to have somewhere that has some snow that you can snowmobile. I know last year was a pretty bad year for it. But again, you're going to be looking at similar charges, I'm assuming, just as if you were operating a car?
A motor vehicle or a vessel ATV, all these things, those are all motor vehicles that you can be charged with impaired driving, and it can happen anywhere, on a highway, on private property. If you're operating a vehicle, that is impaired driving. And keep in mind, if you're going up for the holidays, for New Year's, there is little to no ice, and you may feel that there's a little sheet of ice, but it is super, super thin. And even after a couple of days of cold temperatures or freezing temperatures, no ice is safe ice. Be very careful. Ice safety is such a huge factor. And if there's any moving water at the Narrows up, I know I was talking to our folks up in Aurelia, they're doing some dredging up in the Narrows, and just be very cognizant of open water. And, I can't tell you how many times I have seen personally snowmobile tracks go from shore to ice to snow, and then lost in open water. And usually those situations end up as a recovery and not a rescue. So please be careful out there. The season is just getting started with motorized snow vehicles.
Well put, Sergeant Schmidt. I wish this wasn't a conversation we needed to have. I wish we didn't have to bring you on and talk about, basic safety things when it comes to driving. But we're appreciative of you for coming on and all the hard work you and the rest of the Highway Safety Division do across the province. Best of luck with the OPP Festive Ride Campaign. And thank you so much for making the time today. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Take care and drive safe.
Awesome. Drive safe. There it is from Kerry Schmidt himself, Sergeant Kerry Schmidt, Media Relations for the OPP Highway Safety Division. My thanks to him for joining today, and my thanks to you as well. And hey, while you're here, make sure you like and subscribe to CHCH Podcast so you never miss an episode of this show or any of the other great shows we have for you, including Sportsline with Bubba O'Neill. That's got a new episode that dropped today. So wherever you're listening to this, just go ahead and search Sportsline. It's probably right underneath this, actually, or above it, depending on when it gets posted, when this gets posted. Anyway, I want to thank Justin Peeler for directing today's show. I want to thank Bill for rolling the prompter. And I want to thank you from all of us here at CHCH. I'm Louie Butko. Have a great day.